Welcome to Consumed, produced by Believe Community. I'm your host, Amy Moodley. This is a place where we have honest and vulnerable conversations around important topics that affect us from day to day, helping you become a better version of yourself. To find out more about who we are and what we're about, please check us out on believecommunity.org, and you can connect with us through Facebook and Instagram. This is an open discussion on a topic that people generally avoid or shy away from. We hope to inspire you to start these conversations with your friends and family. Our goal is to help empower our listeners to have an honest and vulnerable conversation around relationships that are difficult, complicated, and challenging to navigate. There is a possibility that you already are in a relationship or seriously considering pursuing one, or you are needing to get a bit more clarity on how to help someone you know work through complicated romantic relationships. Our topic today is complicated romantic relationship, and joining me tonight is my co-host, Ivan Ronald. Hello.
Hey, Amy, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, and you?
Great. How was your weekend?
It was good, full of food.
Plenty food galore, but it was amazing.
It was quite a good time.
Yeah.
The topic, as I mentioned, is on complicated relationships, and I would like to just list a few challenges or complications that we will be touching on during this podcast. Number one, being faced with sexual identity. Does age really matter? It seems okay for older men to marry younger women, but not okay for older women to marry younger men. Is this true, or is it just an assumption? Next one would be setting boundaries. Having equality, being respectful, and understanding of each other's gifts to complement the relationship. And here are some important questions to ask yourself up front to navigate some of these challenges. Why do you want this relationship? What is the attraction? Was it first a physical attraction or a mental attraction? Did it have to do with image or status? Have you been pressured into this relationship? Are you following a trend because it's cool to be in a relationship? And what are your decisions based on? Is it based on eternity? Endgame being marriage. And now we have a fellow friend of Believe Community, Andrea Naicker, who's going to share her views on some of these complications or challenges of romantic relationships. So let's hear from Andrea.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of this and provide my input on this topic. Very interesting topic, I must say. So yeah, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about what I think makes relationships complicated and the challenges couples face. And that's based on a little bit of my experience. I don't have much relationship experience, and the experiences from friends, family members, colleagues that I can share. Firstly, I think not being equally yoked is a big issue, whether people like to admit it or not. And I'm not just talking about two different religions. You can not be equally yoked with somebody who is also Christian, and maybe you can unpack more on that. And it's important to realize that as much as you can be used as a vessel, you are not somebody's savior. God is. So it's important to realize that and realize your role in the relationships. And speaking of role in the relationships, I didn't even plan on saying this, but I think that in the society that we live in today, with so much empowerment and all these amazing things going on, there's also a misunderstanding of the roles. Now, the Bible outlines our roles, the woman as the helper, the man as the provider, etc. And though we do live in a modern era, we also need to not forget the godly principles behind marriage. And I would think that if you are in a romantic relationship, the thing that you would want it to lead to should be marriage, because that would be the biblical way to do things. Also, not confusing the roles, and also looking to the Bible for what is my role in this and my purpose in this. And also family and boundaries. I think that is really important to be established. How much of the family, extended family, you're going to be seeing, and how much time you spend with each party. And we also living in a time whereby there's blended families. People you know what I'm talking about. There's people who may have had kids from previous marriages and stuff like that. Really sitting down and speaking about things like that are very important before even really pursuing the relationship and making it a romantic relationship. I think it's very important to discuss such things, the boundaries, the family matters, etc. I think money matters is also very important, and how you go about and budget and spend as a family, and the things that you do for the home. I think compatibility and connection right at the beginning is also very important. What goals do you have? Talk about that. What dreams, visions, etc. Because if you have a totally different vision and the other person is not really up for that sort of life, it's important to make that clear from the get go. So you know where you stand. You also know from where you stand, where are you heading to? Where is this going? So I think compatibility is also very important, because you don't want later on to find out, oh no, we just weren't compatible. That would not be nice. Age, you asked, does age matter? I think to an extent, whether we like to admit it or not, it does, because you may not be able to really connect with somebody or understand them if they may be like 20 years younger or older than you are. So it may make the connection a bit difficult, I would think. I think for me, it's the maturity level. A few years difference, I don't think makes a huge impact, but the level of maturity of the people is what need to be looked at, and also spiritual maturity. That's very important. So yeah, age matters to me to an extent. I'm not sure how everybody feels about it, but I think in terms of compatibility, connection, the things we talk about, it does make a difference to an extent. But maturity matters more, and spiritual maturity too. So that's where I stand where that's concerned. So I hope this helps in some sort of way, and I look forward to hearing the rest of the podcast and everybody's input on this. It's an amazing topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Wow, those were amazing points raised. I didn't really think about age is like a real problem for me. I was like, well,
Yeah,
okay.
that's like she had a different perspective on it,
Yeah.
which is like quite interesting though.
Yes. And the whole of the yoke
Yes.
as well. And I think that plays with the power point that we're going to be bringing on later in the podcast about how power plays a role in relationship.
Yes, the whole aspect of control, manipulation.
Yes.
And yeah.
So she gave us a different aspect, a different point of view on that.
Beautiful. Okay, great. That was an amazing perspective from Andrea. So now I'm going to call one of my friends, Shorty, and get his perspective on the same question. Basically, what are the complications they face from being a guy in a relationship? And also what he thinks about, does age really matter? So let's hear from Shorty.
Mr. R.
Hey, Shorty, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Mr. R?
Great. How was your day?
Lovely. It's been a good day. It's been a good, productive day. And your day?
Yeah, it's been amazing. So right now, I got you on a call.
Okay.
And just to make you aware, you are being recorded.
All right, Mr. R.
So I wanted to just get your input on two questions. Now, the number one question is like, within your culture and being a male figure in the relationship, what are some of the challenges that complicates the relationship from moving forward or progressing to the next level? That's the first question. Maybe answer that first question and then we take up the second one.
Okay, no problem. So maybe just a couple of points on the first question, Mr. R. I think a little bit as mentioned earlier, the first one is the fact that we definitely can't expose or bring to light that we're in a relationship or in a romantic relationship, to put it better, with our significant other, to our parents, which is a heavy one, because in our culture, it's sort of disrespect to mention that you're in a relationship if you're not marrying the person or actually like proposing to that person. So the only time you can mention that you're in a relationship is if you're actually saying, hey, I'm in a relationship and I'm ready to get married. That's the only time you sort of can mention that you're in a relationship.
Right.
And off the back of that, the second one would probably be because you can't mention that you're in a relationship, it makes it hard to receive as a guy. It makes it hard to receive advice from any father figure or male figure that is obviously an elder or wiser, whatever the case may be. It makes it hard to receive advice because then how do you tell someone that's older than you that you're in a relationship? Because it's considered disrespect. So how then do you ask for advice on what to do and how to do it and simple things like how to love your partner, or simple things how to lead, or simple things like, how to be a man in a relationship, whatever the case may be. Those sort of conversations are hard to happen because obviously you can't tell anyone until you're ready to get married, which kind of sucks. Because by the time you're ready to get married, you might find that you're really not married, and you definitely would have needed some advice or whatever the case may be. So yeah.
Wow. So that's quite difficult. It does make the relationship quite complicated because you cannot you can't like seek advice unless you know that you're ready to marry that person.
Yeah. It does. It makes it super complicated, Mr. R, because obviously we're growing. So you don't know everything, so I'm trying to look for the right words, but obviously as you grow, you can't get advice from society. You can't get advice from your friends because obviously they're your age, so they don't know any better. How do you get advice from people who are just figuring out life as you are? So it does become complicated because then you treat the relationship as you would see in movies, or as you would see from what you see on social media, or what you talk about amongst your friends.
Right.
But you find most of the time that's not really what relationships are, the real and the juicy advice and the meaty advice the elders have, because they've been through the journey, they're married, they have kids, they have families.
Absolutely.
So they're much more experienced. They have the advice to tell you, but they can't share it with you because you can't ask.
Right.
You're not allowed to. So, that's that type of environment.
I feel very sorry for you, my friend. So here's another question, and this is the last one for you, is does age matter, especially more so from the lady being older and the guy younger?
Ooh, that's an interesting one, but yes and no, but more on the yes side. Maybe just 2 pointers here. Yes, age matters because, first of all, as a guy, no guy wants to have a partner that's more experienced than him. That's not just in the black culture, but just as guys in general. I think I've realized that it's a generic thought amongst guys. I used to think it's just amongst the black people, but it's a generic thought. No guy wants a female because if she's older, the thought or the idea is that she's more experienced. Whether she's more experienced in relationships, meaning that she's had more partners than you, or more experienced in things that happen within relationships. But the fact is, the idea is that she's more experienced if she's older than you, which obviously we know is not the truth, but that's the thoughts amongst guys. And so if she's older than you, it's a red flag basically, because you already know she's ahead of me, so she knows more. And it becomes sort of, how do I put it, an intimidation, because every guy, although they don't mention it, every guy wants to be the knight in shining armor. And so they basically, as a guy, you want whatever experience she's going to have in terms of loving someone or falling in love or just being treated well. You want that experience to first stem from you as the guy. But obviously, if she has more experience than you, then obviously she's got that somewhere else already, and you're sort of just coming in after.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, look, that's a very interesting perspective. But yeah, it's true. I mean, it can complicate things, and
it does. It can because of that. It does. I've seen it. Not only I've seen it with myself, obviously, a while back when I was. I'd like to believe I'm wiser now. A while back when I was, I hope I am when I was a bit younger. But I still see it in some of the guys now as well. Hey? Some of the guys that we see and get to interact with and engage with, I still see it being such a huge stumbling block that guys just don't want to date older ladies. And also another fact in that question as well is it's hard to date someone that's older. Also because of this, so there's really two answers that I want to give with this one. It's hard to date someone that's older, first of all, because within the black culture, we believe older people, obviously, I think that's every culture, in fact, but it's so solidified within the black culture where someone that's older than you obviously have to respect. It's like a thing. We stamp it, and yeah, you can't get away from it. So if she's older than you, there's that sort of thinking and idea that
so the game changes. The man have to submit.
Exactly. Exactly. There's the idea that if she's older than you, she's leading the relationship, because obviously you mean to respect the older person, and so if she's older than you, by default it means now you have to hear what she says all the time and only follow what she says, and not obviously be the person or the individual that leads. That's the first part. The second part is, as guys, we are aware that ladies or women grow older before us. We are aware that there are certain changes that happen to their bodies. There's certain things, whether it's physical changes, meaning that they grow old in a certain way, they lose certain structure of their body, or anatomically, obviously things happen within the inside of their bodies in terms of the reproductive system, and whatever the case may be. We are aware of this. Guys are aware of this. And so we know that if she's older, it only means that she's going to reach maturity in terms of getting old and, being that older person and looking old. She's going to reach that stage before you do. And guys don't love that. Guys don't want a partner who's going to get old before he does. If anything, we want a partner that's going to remain younger even though we get older. Yeah. We don't speak about it. We don't bring it up to the open, but we see it. We see it in guys. We see in how we select our partners. We always, you always, no matter how old you are, you're always selecting a partner that looks younger than you and feels younger than you.
Right.
So automatically, when she's older than you, you already have, crossed out that box that I've failed here. And so, yeah, that's the thing among guys, more especially in the black culture, but it definitely is a thing.
Thank you. Well, that was very, very helpful. I think that's a very good perspective you've given us and our listeners. And hopefully we can help our listeners tonight to work out the complications in those kind of relationships. Thank you, Shorty. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. R. Have a good evening.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Wow, that was such a good perspective from a male's point of view. Yeah.
It was really good.
So it's quite cool, listeners, that we had both a female and a male perspectives on complicated relationships. Does age matter? Maturity, where Andrea spoke about more on the spiritual maturity and, you as a person, or your maturity levels, are they compatible?
Yes.
And then Shorty came in from the male's point of view, where they're worried about the female's biological clock, how they're going to age together.
It is very different, though.
It's quite amazing. I think in order for us to progress and go ahead in life, and it's nice to hear both sides. Now that it's out there and we've heard it, we can see where the shift needs to be made. And in order for the two people in a relationship to now start talking, to be on the same wavelength and have those meaningful conversations before going deeper into that relationship.
That's so true. But also you can just see the scientific approach from a female and a male.
Yes.
Because the way the female thinks and the way the male thinks, the guy and the girl. Mm-hmm. And you can see the approach is more mental from a female's point of view. And from a guy's point of view, it's more like visual.
Visual, yes.
And it comes out so clear and so strong in both those conversations.
Very clear. And like when I was doing research for this, I did see there's a trend. Now I'm saying trend. Okay.
There is a trend.
There is a trend where males are actually wanting to be with older women because they want a person that is experienced. They want someone that's going to sometimes help them make decisions because they've been there, done that.
Right.
The times that we are in now, age is not really a big factor. The meme that I saw when they asked the guy, which would you prefer, grape juice or wine? And he's like, wine.
The older the better it tastes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so the age, for me personally, age doesn't matter. Your maturity levels matter. If I can hold a conversation with you and if you're way younger than me, brilliant. And if we have the same views on things and we have the same goals in a relationship,
Yes.
And our foundation, like I'm Christian, if we have the same foundations in Christ, and we know where we're going in life and our principles are the same. We know if we want to have kids, where we see ourselves in 10 years' time, it's like along the same lines. If you're younger than me, I'm okay with it.
Right.
And the same goes if someone is older than me. We have to be compatible in a lot of ways.
Exactly. Obviously. I mean, look, that's really helpful because the experience factor does play a key role, and also the wisdom that comes with it. Wisdom that comes with it.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's something that Andrea highlighted is the whole thing on compatibility. And it just depends how you work it out among yourselves. But there's an interesting thing that I've discovered even through scripture, and where it talks about that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. There's some helpful points in that text that I discovered or seen in it. The first thing is love. So in other words, when you're working through a complicated relationship, love should be the motivating factor and how you're going to handle that complication. There are the three important things that can hamper or hinder the relationship from progressing to where you want it to be is the whole aspect of fear. And fear of talking about something, like Shorty highlighted, the fear of approaching an elder with some of the challenges he's facing in his current relationship, because he's not even sure at this point if he's going to marry that person. So in order for him to talk to an elder about the difficulties that he's facing, he has to be certain that this is the girl I'm going to marry. That poses quite a difficult situation for him in that context. But the other aspect is, so it's a fear, then it's the power, and then having a sound mind. The power aspect is more about the ability. So that means God has given us the ability to work through the difficult challenges. But as humans, we can use that power or that ability to either be constructive in the relationship or be destructive.
Wow.
Being destructive, that means you can manipulate the relationship. You can control that relationship, that power, that control that you can have over a person to kind of push or navigate that relationship in your favor. You'll do whatever it takes to get that other person and control that other person. And obviously the last and the most important thing is the mind, is having a sound mind. It's having a healthy mind. And so what is your mental state? Because if you don't have a healthy, strong mind, you could allow that to play mind games, should I say, and then not do the right thing and try to manipulate everything you want to. Is that right, Amy?
Yeah. So if you don't have a sound mind, you obviously go down the wrong paths in your way of thinking. Your partner could be doing something innocently and you think it's something else. The point of manipulation, if they find this something that you are lacking in and they use that to manipulate you, sometimes it won't even be that they are trying to manipulate you, but you see it as a manipulation.
Yes. So in order for you to develop a strong and a sound mind is basically is what are you watching? What are you reading? Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
What's your circle of influence? Who are your friends?
Yes.
And so that all that helps for you to get a sound mind and get the wisdom that you need to help you through those challenges that you're facing in your current relationship or the one that you're pursuing.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you have a good mind. And sometimes we allow the wrong things to influence us and change the way we think. And that's important because what you think is actually who you are.
True.
And so it's important what you allow into your mind. Because essentially we are a mind.
Your mind is very powerful. Also with fear, apart from what was highlighted with what Shorty said,
Yes.
fear can also be fear of being judged. If you have an issue, you have your own reservations about something. You're having a conversation with your partner and you don't like their point of view. You don't like what they're saying. You don't like where this conversation is heading. You stop the conversation and you need advice from someone, but you don't know who to speak to or you don't want to raise this thing because the relationship from the outside could be looking like it's really nice. And then you go to a friend and you want to talk about it and they're like, oh, why are you complaining? You got everything. Guys
Yes.
are good. So you don't want to.
What's the problem?
What's the problem? What are you complaining about? Be grateful. Like that happens. And that's where fear comes in. So you rather keep that in, not go to anyone because you're afraid of what your friends or your family members are going to tell you. Like, be grateful. Oh gosh, you're so old now. Just stop being picky. Just be with that person. You know, those type of things can be said to you. And that's where I feel also fear comes in, where they don't feel that they can trust the person they can talk to. They fear, it's a fear of judgment.
So how important is then having somebody that you can be accountable to?
Very.
Yeah, the whole thing about being vulnerable with somebody, being open, and that you can share openly without any fear. But obviously, trust plays a huge role, because that could actually hurt you or damage whatever you're trying to do.
It is very important to have someone that you can be vulnerable, your accountability partner. But you need to make it very clear to your romantic partner that you do have this person, because I don't think anyone wants to know that anyone in that relation wants to know that you're talking about your relationship with someone else. They'd rather have you speak to them about it. But sometimes you do need someone on the outside to give you a view. Sometimes you could just be, like you said, your mind. It can all be happening in your mind, and then the
it's
person,
like getting another perspective.
And they'll be like, hang on, I think you not on the right part. I don't think that's what he meant. I don't think that's what she meant.
Right.
Rein in the emotions. We are emotional people.
Yeah, so that means your accountability partner must be for you, before the relationship, must be supportive and encouraging and wanting to help you and to build and to progress.
Your accountability partner is someone that you have a good track record with. So you know that they, in other aspects in your life, have given you good advice,
right,
and have been there to support you. Don't get an accountability partner just for your romantic relationship.
No.
That's not going to work.
That's not going to work. That's disaster.
It is disaster. I have another complication that I know many people are facing is the whole aspect on sex, a sexual relationship. We do know that sometimes if a relationship starts off based on just the physical attraction,
yes,
the sex will complicate things. If two people are now pursuing a romantic relationship with the end game being a committed, loving marriage,
right,
when would you advise the topic on sex would come out?
Well, that's a huge one. And obviously, because there's a lot of pressure on couples, on relationships, because of not only their own feelings, but what happens around them in the world and the trend that they face from their peers. And so I don't think at this stage it's important to talk about sex until it surfaces.
Yeah.
And it can surface in many ways when you find that your partner is speaking a lot about sex or starts to make advances of you in an inappropriate way and expecting that, well, if you love me, then you would sleep with me. And that's the big one.
Yes.
To feel accepted, to feel wanted, to feel loved. You're thinking, okay, this is the only way. If you can do this for me, then I know you really, really love me. I think the moment you start seeing signs like that coming from your partner, whether it's the male or female, but the moment you see those signs, it's time to have that serious talk.
Yes.
But obviously, you need to talk about it at some way in the relationship. And I don't think you should fear or hesitate to bring it up upfront if you feel that way. It doesn't mean that you are, what is the word I'm looking for?
Easy.
Easy. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're easy. It just means that's the person you are. You want to know now, upfront, and you are forthright about it. And I think you should be.
Yeah.
Rather leaving it when it's too late.
Find out what the expectations are from both parties. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's my take on when it comes to the whole thing around sex in a relationship.
Because sex also can be used to manipulate. There's a lot of emotions when that comes into play.
Yeah, obviously for different cultures, they have a different understanding and a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, the whole thing is about, how is the woman fertile? Is she able to produce? Yeah. And it's all these different things that's where the mind comes in, the mind. Yeah. And we have a different perspective. We have an assumption and we assume things. And so we think like children should play a big role in the future. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's true. Yeah. I don't think that's true. It's just an assumption.
Children are not meant to make your relationship better or make you happier. They're just a bonus, right? A gift from God.
It's a gift.
A gift from God.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in fact, the children are a gift in a good way, in a sense, because it also helps the relationship in a sense where it starts to change you and work out things in your life that you never ever thought of. In that sense, God uses kids to help you grow.
Yeah. Well, I think all of these complications that we've raised will help you grow as an individual.
Absolutely.
Whether you try to avoid these complications or you are in these complications, you need to find a way to use these complications to your benefit.
Yeah.
Always look at the positive side of things.
Absolutely. You got to see it in a positive way.
And you also raised the whole part of family blended families, speaking about if we are going to be together, how much time are we going to spend with which side of the family and all of that stuff. Time management. Also looking at your productivity and how you're investing your time. It's all part of that. Just trying to figure out how you're going to use your time.
Yes. So Amy, tell me this. I mean, you were in a romantic relationship once.
Yes.
What was one of those, just give us one complication that you faced or challenges?
I felt, he didn't say it out loud, but I felt he felt intimidated that I was going up really fast in my career. If I achieved anything, it wasn't met with much excitement that I would have expected the person that apparently loved you would have shown.
Yeah. Happy for you, supportive, excited for your journey, where you are in your career.
Yeah. I remember once I had a salary increase, I was like, I got a salary increase. And he's like, yeah.
No joy. Not excited.
Nothing. And I was like, okay, I'm excited. So yeah, those are some of the things. What I learned from that is a maturity issue somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And why did I feel bad about it?
Yes.
So I had to be happy with myself. If I'm achieving something, yay, Amy, be my own cheerleader. I don't need someone else, my partner, to be. But it would be nice. It's a nice to have.
Guys, listeners, if you haven't listened to the podcast on singleness, Amy elaborates a bit further on that. So have a listen. Great.
Also, the money matters that Andrea spoke about. I also raise that in your singleness season. That's where your foundation starts, how you handle it.
So important.
Money, even if you're not in a relationship, causes issues.
Yeah.
Personally, in families, it's just the way you handle money.
Yeah, guys, please listen to that. So important, because earlier in my own relationship, that was my weakness. Money is my weakness. It's like I spend what I want to spend, do what I want to do, no control, not thinking ahead, not planning enough. And so, that's in fact a really important matter to deal with. And don't ignore
management. It. Yeah, money management. And also another thing that we've been warned about in the Bible is not making money your God.
Yes.
Don't let it rule you.
Yes.
Don't let it rule all of your decisions. Yes, it's a major impact. We know we can't live good lives without being secure with money and stuff, but don't allow it to control you. It's a very thin line, and we need to be careful not to cross it.
So true. It's good, Amy. Good.
Another complication that we are all quite aware of, especially in, when we have different cultures, the difference in culture or race. And we did have a really good episode with Cornelius and Nadine Terblanche.
That was amazing.
Yes, they both come from different cultures, different race groups, and the way they handled it was so amazing. And please, listeners, have a listen to that. That was quite a cool one.
Please go and listen. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Another one is communication. I mean, that we can have a
big one. we can have a whole discussion on that.
Communication is very important. We have one of our good friends of Belief Community, Auriel, that is going to share her view on communication in a relationship.
I think one of the challenges that young people face in their romantic relationship is communication. And for me, communication is an exchange of ideas and feelings, hopes, and even nonverbals. But since it is an exchange, it only works when both partners are present, working to create that change. So I think the challenge comes in when one partner is quite reserved and the other is not, especially when it comes to feelings. So I'm just going to quickly use an example from my relationship. When I am going through something or there's an issue, I will communicate it to my partner straight away. I will tell him all the details, and I will go and try my best to relate to him how I feel and all of those things. And I'll even expect my partner to respond and give advice after. However, when my partner is facing an issue, he likes to feel like he's on top of it, like he's the man, he's handling it. He doesn't really share as readily as I would. And one of the reasons why he wouldn't share is because he probably doesn't want to burden me or worry me with whatever he's facing at that time. And in turn, I may react very poorly because I know something is wrong. I can see something is wrong, but I get frustrated because my partner is not communicating to me what's actually going on. And so I think this is really one of those hard things that couples deal with is communication.
So true. So my question is, okay, from my point of view, I keep on saying that a lot recently.
The POV.
The POV. Why do women start questioning themselves? Like in this situation, her partner wasn't communicating and she started thinking, oh, why is he not communicating? Why is this? Is there something wrong with her? And we do that. Do men do that?
Yeah, I think we do that a lot. I mean, I do that. I mean, we just, Stacey and I also have those challenges. Or should I say, she has that challenge with me, because silence can make you wonder and think, what is your partner thinking? I can understand what Auriel is saying, because it makes you feel like, is something wrong with me?
Yeah.
Have I said something wrong, or have I done something wrong?
Yeah.
It does complicate things, and it's not very good though. And I don't want to speak. I don't think it's every man, but generally, it's typical of men to have that silent moments of theirs. They seem to love silence.
Is it because they need time to digest it and think and then give their answer?
Well, for me, like basically, just putting me in this example is basically I'm a thinker. I think a lot. I process stuff, and before I respond. And obviously, I tend sometimes to respond too long. I take too long to respond. Or it's too late,
Yes.
Stacey's already made the decision. It's like, where were you when I was speaking? Are you listening to me? Have you heard that? And I do get that. And I don't think it's helpful. It's something that we need to learn how to respond quickly. And I think communication is a big thing. And I think we need to learn how to communicate.
Yes.
And I don't think we should be afraid to ask somebody, please help me, to be a better communicator. And so when you say a better communicator, it doesn't mean when you stand up and speak in public or preach somewhere. No, it's about how do you communicate in a relationship. And so you can get help in learning how to communicate. And I think it's very, very clear. And that's why it's helpful to follow Jesus as well, because he has some very, very interesting things to say. He says, be quick to listen. I'm not sure about the other one, be slow to answer that. I think that's why it takes so long. Be slow to...
It's slow to anger.
Is it slow to anger? Why is it slow to answer? Oh my goodness, slow to anger. Somebody said I need anger management.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was me a few years ago, years and years ago, but I'm cool now.
Yeah. Sorry guys, it's not slow to answer. Please be quick to answer. Slow to anger.
Yes. It's all about patience as well, I think so. So on both sides, if we know that our partners need some time to digest and is a thinker, we also have to have the patience. And I spoke. Has he heard me? I need him to acknowledge he's heard me. I don't need to know his answer right now, but give him time and space to come back with the answer. We have to learn.
That's true. Yeah. I think that's where some of the challenges or the difficulty I have sometimes when I don't respond and say, yes, I heard you.
Okay.
So if you stay quiet, it's like, hello?
You're being ignored. You're ignoring the person, yes.
It's like basically you're saying that I'm ignoring you.
Yeah.
So just acknowledging that I've heard, I think that's important.
Works both ways, because I can also do that. So at home, if I'm zoned into something and someone's speaking to me, I don't hear it. There's been a lot of times, and it does. If I don't acknowledge I heard you, it can turn ugly. It's not only in romantic relationships, it's at home as well. You need to be so careful. So communication is really, really, really important. You need to find out what's your partner's way of communicating. What's the process to get an answer from them?
Yeah.
The decision-making process.
Yes.
Those type of things in order for you now. I'm not saying change yourself completely, but you need to accommodate that.
Yeah. So I think response is important.
Yes. Yeah.
Responding. So I think that's very, very important.
It is important. Don't ignore.
No one likes to be ignored.
Yes, true.
Doesn't matter how simple it looks or sounds. Nobody likes to be ignored.
Yeah. If I'm investing time in this relationship and I am investing my time speaking to you and I'm wanting your opinion on something, or I want you to help me to come to a decision on something, it's like disrespect if you don't say a word.
Yes.
So I agree with you. You need to acknowledge it. You don't have to be like, I heard you and I'll give you an answer at this time on this day. No, you just acknowledge it.
Yeah, so we mustn't forget that people are looking for stability, security, love, acceptance. And so love is sincere. You know, a place where somebody feels loved and accepted. It's that environment that you create for safety. And so I think communication plays a key role within that. And so we have to do that, you know. I'm not surprised because there's so many different kinds of relationships that we have out there. And even people on the way they feel, even in their own sexual identity. And so there's a lot of differences in the way people see relationships, the different kinds of relationships. And I don't want to go into the details of all the different kinds. And you know, it's out there.
Yes.
It's there. And all those relationships are, I don't want to downplay it, but they are real. It's real feelings. It's real emotions involved. It's thinking. It's because people all are wanting the same thing. It's the love. It's feeling accepted. It's feeling wanted. It's feeling to be heard. I think it's important for us to not downplay a lot of these things or make a joke of certain things. But it's important to listen to people, listen to the stories, listen to the journey, listen to the challenges, the difficulties they're facing, because it's the real thing. It's the real thing. It might not look the way we want it to look, or we have our own perspective or different view on certain matters and the kinds of relationships. But I think we have to be careful that we don't ignore people's feelings and what they're going through.
And don't come across judgmental.
Yeah, don't come across judgmental.
Because we don't know people's stories. We don't know where they come from. It's so true. And people find different avenues to get love.
Yeah.
And we need to
For example, the other day I was having a conversation with somebody, and we were talking about somebody that's in a homosexual relationship, and the person said, well, the person explained that this is what's going on to them, and all they did, the family members, was just sending them Bible texts and saying, we're praying for you, and here's a scripture. But nobody, and so I asked them, have you ever sat down with this person and asked them their story or the journey? Nobody did it.
Wow.
Because the person is in a homosexual relationship, they've already judged him and assumed that he's on a wrong path, and started sending him Bible text and saying, we're praying for you.
He needs prayer and
he needs prayer. There's something that needs to be cast out without even giving the person a hearing. So let's not judge people on the kind of relationship they are in. What's important, that we are prepared to listen to people's stories before we try to say, because you can never help somebody unless you listen to them.
And find out what do they want? Why are they in those relationships? Why have they chosen those paths? You need to be kind, I believe. You need to be kind, non-judgmental, and hear people's perspectives and their views and why they've chosen those. Just be there. Just be an ear. You know, sometimes that's the best thing.
Yeah, kindness is so much needed.
Yes.
Kindness.
I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's so cool.
I mean, it's I hope our listeners, I hope you're out there listening to us, and this is being helpful, and I hope you're getting some good handles on how to navigate those challenging and complicated romantic relationships.
Yes, and just remember, complication doesn't mean it's the end game. You can always work through it.
There's hope.
There's hope. There's always hope.
There's hope.
So with the Bible verse that you were talking about, love, God made us out of love, for love.
That's the way he designed us.
That's the way he designed us. So we are meant to be kind. We are meant to be emotional beings. We are meant to be loving and supportive.
Yes.
Those are all caring aspects. And with the acronym LOVE, belief community, we like these things.
Yeah, that's a good one, though.
L for listening to learn, O for objectivity, V for vulnerability, and E for experience. L, listening to learn, like we were just talking about now. Get to know people, listen to their stories.
Yes, very important.
And think about creating a healthy and safe environment for people to open up, which is another thing. You need to create an environment where they don't feel judged.
That is so key. Yeah, that is so key.
Yeah, it needs to be in a real environment. We have to stop with the jokes, the hurtful jokes. We might think it's a joke, but it's not really a joke. We need to think about people's feelings. We always need to, just be kind.
And we have to be careful in our conversation that we don't pass hints that are negative and destructive.
Yes. Objectivity, being objective, looking at things with an open mind and putting your own feelings into it. Being open to it. Don't be influenced by other people's views, outside views. You need to go through the process of finding out, listening to the stories.
Because every situation is different. Every person is different.
Exactly.
So even though you read something or see something on social media or hear somebody else speak about it, you cannot take that as prescriptive
Yes.
to your current situation or the person that you're trying to help, because every relationship and every person is designed again differently.
Yeah. So stop looking at those stories on social media platforms and hoping you have that, because you're not going to, no two people are the same. No two
So
relationships
that's
are the
why
same.
love must be the motivating factor.
Yes.
If that's the motivating factor, then you're not going to judge and assume and come up with your own answers,
Yeah.
looking through your own destructive lenses, should I say.
Personally, for me, I wouldn't want my relationship to be the same as someone else, because I don't want to know what the end game is going to, you know what,
Yes.
like if I have an argument about this, I don't want to know what it's going to end up as, because that person had the same ending. No, it
Yes.
has to be different.
Yes, absolutely.
And
great.
the next one is vulnerability.
That's a big one. That's huge.
And
Yeah.
it's not such an easy thing for us as humans to do, because we
Because
like to protect.
That's the aspect where the fear sets in.
Yes. We don't necessarily like to say what's on our mind, because we're already judging ourselves in our mind. So vulnerability for me as well, which leads to trust. In order for you to be vulnerable, you need to trust the person. And there's a lot of trust issues out there, because it's so
it's
easy. You
huge.
put something up on social media, you speak to someone and you get judged so quickly that you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not speaking.
And your story is out.
Yes. And then people start saying hurtful things. You get trolls and stuff. It's a harsh world.
Yeah. Very harsh world.
Very
guys,
harsh
and
world.
damaging.
And that's when people don't like to be vulnerable. It's not easy to trust. So that's why we keep on saying kindness.
Yeah.
We need kindness, love.
Yeah. And
So-
I think a scripture was saying somewhere, I think it's probably a scripture, it's the fear of man brings a snare. Yeah, you get trapped.
You get trapped, yeah. Vulnerability, be honest, open and truthful, not allowing shame to cloud you.
Wow, man.
That's another thing.
And so people don't want to open up because of shame.
Yeah. It's sad.
It's really sad.
Shame is not a good feeling. It's very detrimental to your well-being.
Yes.
I mean, people don't understand. If you are sitting in that cloud of shame, it actually hurts you physically and mentally. If you're not well in your mind, if you're not being positive, it actually affects your body, your organs. Go read up about it. How your mind plays such a vital.
It's very true.
Yeah.
It does. It does. It
Crazy.
can make you feel sick.
Yes. Oh yeah, stress. Stress is number one factor for a lot of ailments.
Yeah.
Experience. Share your own experience.
Yeah.
We like to hear testimonies. We like to hear people's stories, not the fantasies that are put out there and these make-believes. And listen to true, real stories. And that's where you will also
we're
learn
looking
from that.
for the authentic. We're looking for the originals.
Yes.
And because that's what makes the thing exciting. It's your own story.
Mm-hmm.
And so share that experience. Like, Amy, experience is good.
So listeners, if you have any interesting stories, if you like to share your stories, please connect with us on our social platforms. Comment on this podcast. Podbean allows you to comment.
Yes, it does.
So you please share your story if you want to, or if you have any views on what we've just discussed this evening. It'll be really awesome, because we are still learning.
Yeah.
I also like to learn more about the different types of complications. If there's something that we haven't actually highlighted today, please let us know, and we would love to talk about it. I think we've come to the end. That was actually quite an
that was
awesome
amazing
conversation.
Amazing.
Where did the time
Great.
go? So
Great conversation.
Yes.
Well done there, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you to our guests, Andrea, Shorty, and Auriel. Thank you so much for your comments. It was just so amazing to hear your different perspectives on complicated relationships. Listeners, very important, have your accountability partner that you can be vulnerable with. That means someone that you can trust, and also be kind to one another.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Amy. Wonderful.